Welcome to Lifeline, your ultimate guide to bridging the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You can also catch Lifeline on Facebook and YouTube of Billionaire News Channel. I'm your host, Carelle Herrera, and in every episode, we sit down with experts and individuals who faced challenges, embraced change, and discovered what it takes to move forward. Together, we listen to stories that can help you unlock your fullest potential, whether it is in your career, relationships, health, or personal growth. Join us as we discover how you can create the life you have always dreamed of. Let us all find out right here on Lifeline. Have you felt different? In a world where people fear what they don't understand, how can you be who you are? Stand up to those who put you down and find the love and courage to fight for those in need. What if the thing that made you different became your greatest superpower? Today, our guest stands as Congresswoman Geraldine Roman, the first transgender lawmaker in Philippine history. And tonight, she is here to share how she defied how she was defined and to inspire better narratives for people who dare to be different and relevant. Congresswoman Geraldine, welcome to Lifeline.
Hello, Carelle. Thank you for having me over.
You know, when a person experiences something that is unfamiliar, something they don't understand, they fear it. How was that for you growing up, being different, being unfamiliar to a lot of people that you grew up with?
Well, you know, as a child, I already exhibited what we would call or consider nowadays as feminine behavior. I have two brothers, and I wouldn't play with them. I would play with my girl cousins. So it came naturally to me, you know, my choices of playing with Barbie dolls, mga palayok-palayukan, bahay-bahayan, and they sort of considered me strange. And although they tried to invite me to play with them, I didn't. So that was the start when I you know, felt different. And when the adults would react, you know, would try to discourage me from playing with these games. That was when I started feeling that I was unique.
Yes, and then, you know, going through school, going to Ateneo, is that something that we can talk about, you know? How was that in a school that was all boys?
Well, grade school is no problem because, you know, wala pang puberty na pumapasok dyan. But in your teenage years, you know, I went to Ateneo de Manila High School. It's an all-boys school. And at that time...
Yes, at that time. Ngayon, ano na, no?
Oo.
Open na sila, yes.
Co-ed na sila, no? Well, boys can be cruel. Teenagers can be cruel. And I was, of course, subjected to teasing, panunokso, and also bullying.
Right.
Because I was very feminine, effeminate, as they would say. And they would call me names. And it was kind of difficult at the start. Thank God, the Jesuits at Ateneo were very, very supportive.
Wow. Now, if I were to ask, you know, doon sa bullying na yan, and a lot of people do not survive it. A lot of people get so hurt and defined by that. How did you overcome it? How did you live through it, go through it?
Well, to begin with, my parents, in particular, my father was very supportive. He made me feel important and loved, and that spells a difference. You know, when you are growing up and you have low self-esteem and a very little sense of self-worth, life is going to be difficult, you know. We cannot change how others may behave towards you or how others may treat you. But when you have a core that is strong, that is enveloped and protected by love, in this case by my parents and by my family, well, I was able to survive the bullying and the teasing. And of course, there was the support of the Ateneo Jesuit fathers who taught me that in order for me to be respected, I had to excel in academics, which I did, no? And also to try to explain to my classmates that I'm just one of them, and that they should treat me no differently.
Now, telling them these things and saying to them na wag niyo akong tratuhin iba, did it work?
Yes, it did. Not, it was not termed like that. It was not something like that was made for them to understand or something imposed. No, it came naturally in my daily dealings with them. I would just try to enjoy their company and to show them who I am really.
Now, you said that your father embraced who you are and accepted you, and you said also that you have very low self-esteem. So, growing up, if you were loved and embraced and accepted naman by the family, bakit ka nagkaroon ng low self-esteem?
I think that was more of an internal struggle.
Yes.
You see, the problem with trans people is that, especially at the age of puberty, is that you have the mindset, the heart, and the mind of a certain gender, in my case, a woman, but my body was developing in the opposite direction. So there was this disparity that was hard to deal with. In fact, I did not understand why, hair was growing in places that I didn't want it to grow. And I had a very, very high voice, high-pitched voice when I was in grade school, and that changed.
Oh.
It became deeper. Buti na lang medyo hindi masyadong deep, Medyo tinamonson palmang register ng voice ko, no? I was very uncomfortable with myself. And I think that was the source of, somewhat low self-esteem.
Yung tinatawag nilang body dysmorphia, yun ba yun?
Yes, dysmorphia, also gender dysphoria. It's the feeling of discomfort. And that is a struggle that I think is more difficult than, learning how to deal with other people. Pagkalaban mo na ang sarili mo at ang development that is happening in your body, it's a different issue already. It's a different level.
Mas matindi ata yun kaysa sa lahat ng bullying na nagaganap sa labas.
Totoo yun. Totoo yun. So, I remember, in my second year of high school, I came out to my father.
Okay.
At that time, this was way back in the 80s, so mo na lang tanongin kung anong eksaktong fetsa. I-google na lang ng mga viewers. No? In the Philippine setting, ang tawag lang sa mga lalaki na medyo effeminate was simply bakla.
Correct.
Or mga babae na medyo masculine or butch, tawag sa kanila mga tomboy. So, the idea of sexual orientation and gender identity and expression did not exist at that time, or at least it was not clearly defined, and we did not have that information. So, I couldn't take it anymore. And then I remember I spoke to my dad one night. I asked him, Dad, why is it this way? Why is everybody expecting me to behave like a man when I don't feel like a man? I've tried to fight against it, pero hindi talaga kaya. Ito ko. And he cried. My father was your typical macho politician with his mustache and his baritone voice, and he was well respected, maraming nagkakagusto sa kanya mga babae nung araw, as a politician.
I can imagine.
Very attractive man. And then he cried and he asked me, would you like to see a psychologist?
Okay.
Wala naman kaming problema sa familia about seeing psychologists and psychiatrists. In fact, you're quite advanced for that time.
Oo nga, for your dad to suggest
yes.
that. Oo.
And I think it was also in line with the thinking then that gender dysphoria or being trans was an illness, a mental illness.
Something must have gone wrong. That's
Something
why,
must have gone wrong, or it was just a phase. He just wanted to make sure, no? So I did see a psychiatrist, and after 4 sessions, the psychiatrist told my dad, there's nothing to be done. Jerry is just this way. All he has to do is to just accept himself and just live with himself and try his best to adapt, But of course, after Ateneo, I went to UP, which is a totally different atmosphere. I met different types of people,
Yes.
and including other trans people.
Oh, so mas lumaki yung mundo, and I believe, I watched one of your interviews, doon pwede ka nang mag-lipstick, mag-long hair.
Pwede na. I had classmates who, my female classmates would tell me, do you know that you can grow your hair longer and that you can look better, you can feel more comfortable. I think they read me and they understood me. And with that, I came to embrace more of my trans identity, my identity as a woman. So little by little, I started transitioning in college. Mas may knowledge na tayo dyan eh.
Yan,
diba?
oo.
Yun ang maganda rin naman sa UP, no? It's a taste of real life.
Right.
And I began to understand na hindi naman pala ako weirdo or nag-iisa lang ako sa mundo. There are more people like me. And they were capable of living their truth and being their authentic selves. And they were happy.
Now, interesting journey that you have kasi you are a congresswoman and in the world of politics, parang napakataas nung yung need for approval ng public, right? Yung
totoo
may
yan.
voting, di ba? So parang hindi ka ba natakot? Ano yung pumasok sa isip mo? Ba't ka una pumasok sa politics? At paano mo niyakap yung pagtanggap ng tao?
Alam mo, ang pag-join ng public service was really not part of my life plan. Eh.
Oh.
I was living a quiet life in Spain, in Madrid, Spain, where I worked as a journalist. And then I had my house, I had my car, I had my partner then.
Yes.
And then way back in 2012, my father fell ill.
Okay.
Okay. And sabi ko, I think I should take care of him. I came home. I would help my mom, who was then congresswoman, in the district. And everybody was asking me, are you going to be the next congresswoman?
Okay.
And I said, no. Hindi, dito lang ako. I'm just here to take care of my dad, no? So my father and I were very close ever since. And more so during his last months alive, no? And we would engage in these very intimate conversations. Ganun pala pag namamatay na yung tao, you lose all inhibitions.
Yes.
He would tell me, alam mo anak, nung maliit ka, parang natatakot ako for you. And I was really worried. Now I'm so proud. I see that you can live independently as a woman and you've managed to succeed, no? In Spain and here in the Philippines, accepted ka naman ng ating mga kababayan, ano? And then he asked me, what is the meaning of your life? So,
Wow.
Oh, di ba? Very deep, ano? Sabi ko, what do you want me to tell you? I mean, like, hello, you just said it. I'm successful, I have work, I am able to save, I'm able to travel, to shop. Di ba yun ang gusto nating lahat?
Yes.
Sabi niya, yes, up to a certain point. But what's next? Wala ka namang anak. What is the purpose of your life?
Now, I want to hear the next part of that story. Magbe-break po muna tayo and we will be right back to hear more from Kong Jerry. Welcome back to Lifeline. And before the break, we were talking about the meaning of Kong Jerry's life. So, continue with the story.
So yun nga, nung tinanong ko ng dad ko about the meaning of my life, I explained to him that I was already successful and everything. What else is there to be done? He said, you ask yourself what's next because you don't have children. And he told me this, sabi niya, as long as your life revolves around yourself, the me, myself and I, your life has no true meaning. And then he spoke to me about the proverbial saying we have at Ateneo, like being a man or a woman for others. And that was when I thought of, I really considered joining the world of public service. So I was quite confident, in fact. And I was helping my mom before handling, LGBT rights. My first passion was agrarian reform beneficiaries. Oo, kasi totoo yun. Maraming mga agrarian reform beneficiaries who have still not yet received their land. The Justice Delivery Program of the Department of Agrarian Reform is not yet, fully implemented. Mahabang proseso, and I would help them out. I would follow up dun sa DAR, and marami namang kaso medyo na-fast track dahil sa pagfa-follow up. And that was when I first felt na meron pala akong mayaambag, and that made me feel good. Parang sabi ko, ito na yata yung purpose in life na sinasabi. When you start living for others and helping others, ibang pakiramdam. Ibang pakiramdam.
At ano yan, base yan sa pag-aaral ng neuroscience, what they saw is that people with meaning, meaning hindi sila nabubuhay para lang sa sarili na, they're happier.
They live longer.
They live longer.
Oo.
They have more optimistic points of view and mas talaga nakakontribute talaga sila sa society. So, now, ito yan. Ang dami mong tinutulungan and yet maraming tao siguro at the start who've put you down. And we talked about that earlier, yung bullying. Now, if it's okay, I'd show you something that I think a lot of people could relate with. This is a survey I've done with our viewers and this is on bullying. And ito, yung tanong dito ay, una, relevant pa rin ba siya hanggang ngayon? Kasi meron akong insight na mga tao sinasabi sa akin, Carelle, iba na ang panahon ngayon, hindi mo na kailangan mag-come out. I was told by one of my friends, kasi woke na daw ang generation ngayon. And in my son's school, they're very progressive, wala raw bullying, bawal daw yung mga ganon. So, is bullying still an issue in today's society? And I'd like to show you this and maybe you could give me a feedback on this. So, 90% ang nagsasabing yes. Relevant pa din siya. What's your take on this, especially, you know, from your side of the world na you're in government, you're in politics?
Yeah. Actually, bullying does exist. It has improved over the years, especially with awareness, education campaign carried out even in our public schools. It also differs depending on the setting. Ibang urban setting, ibang rural setting. And also depends on the school where you go to. I would say that, sectarian schools, like the school where I went to, it is openly discussed, and in fact, it is taught to the children na it's not okay to bully other people. Now, in the rural setting, hindi ba masyadong aware. And it's not only against the LGBTQ plus community. Bullying can happen against people with disabilities, against indigenous peoples, against people who are generally perceived to be different. I think that is the root cause of bullying. When we are unable to accept the different characteristics or circumstances of a person, and then we feel entitled to judge them or to treat them differently, that is bullying and that is discrimination.
That's right. That entitlement na may karapatan ako to judge someone. So yung next two items dito sa survey na to, tinatanong if you have witnessed, or sinasabi, I have witnessed someone getting bullied, and ang lumalabas dito, 70% said yes. Dun sa first item, bullying is still an issue today, it's 90%. So, ang taas talaga. Doon sa third, may may sinasabi dito na I stand up for those bullied. Dito lumabas, 50% lang yung strongly saying yes. And so, malaki yun, 50%. Yung 20%, nandoon, fence sitting. So, growing up, how, may validity ba yung number na yan?
Well, I belong to another generation. So, during my time, yes, there was bullying. And I witnessed a lot of people getting bullied, because of the color of their skin, I don't know, their physical attributes, what have you. Naka-experience na rin ako, naka-witness na rin ako ng fat shaming, body shaming. And then, yes, I did stand up for them. But this much I can say, I saw my nieces. Well, actually, nasa US nga sila, Doon mas conscious sila. And in fact, they call you out. Pag, alam mo naman, Filipino humor, sabihin mo gaya, ay, ang taba-taba naman niya, what have you. Sabi, Tita, that's not right. That my niece would tell me, So they remind you, that it's not okay to bully. Now, in the Philippine context, yes, I believe that what the numbers you got is actually an improvement already of past figures.
Yes.
And that more and more children, more and more teens are learning to fight bullying and to stand up against those who are bullying.
Parang dati siguro, mas malaki yung percentage ng tumatahimik. So I think nandoon tayo sa, ngayon, yung figures na to, meron pa rin mga taong, huwag mo na lang ako i-involve kasi hindi naman ako kasama dyan, hindi naman ako nabubuli, so hindi na lang ako makingialam. Now, meron din akong isa pang survey na ginawa. Tinanong ko, ano kaya yung most common reason Bakit ba nambubuli yung mga bullies? And we've talked about people not understanding and having that fear for things that are different. So, ito yung lumabas na response. So, parang ang pinakamalaking words kasi dyan yung mas karamihan ng tao, yun yung sinabi nila. Insecurity daw. So, teka, yung mga nambully sa'yo, insecure sa'yo.
Actually, sabi nila, it's a projection of their own insecurities, no? They try to cope with their own insecurities by bullying other people. I don't know how that makes them feel better about themselves, ano? But more than that, I think it's part of human nature also to be naturally averse to things or people who are different. But you know what? That is not to say that we can justify bullying. Na hindi ko mo ibang tingin mo sa ibang tao, you can treat them in a different way. I think you have to be respectful. You know, basic rule of engagement, dapat merong respeto para sa isa't isa. And alam mo, I think the reason why we should practice respect and avoid bullying is basically this, empathy. And asking ourselves, would you like to be bullied yourself? If the answer is no, edi wag ka rin mag-bully. Yung golden rule na sinasabi natin, ano?
Right. Pero meron ka bang mga clapbacks? Meron ka bang mga binalik sa mga taong nang bully sa'yo? Meron bang mga one-liners kang nagamit?
Well, you know, naalala ko nung kampanya, the first time I ran, my rivals then would try to make a joke of my circumstances as a trans woman. Sasabihin nilang ganyan, naku, ano yan, manok ng kinapon, you'll just get shortchanged, you know. Or they would say, hindi nga niya alam ko nung CR siya papasok, you know. So ang magjo-joke ako, sasabihin ko ganyan, naku, alam nga naman mag-CR ako sa mga banyo ng lalaki. Sa ganda ko to, baka magkagulo lang ang mga lalaki.
Galing!
Yung mga ganun lang. But more than clapbacks, I would patiently share with them the story of love and acceptance given to me by my family. And I think everyone has experienced some form of discrimination.
Yes.
In his or her life. It may not be on the basis ng ating sexual orientation or gender identity. Maaring because of the color of your skin, your socioeconomic status, could be your age, or maybe your stature.
Or even the way you think. You know, like if you are a very creative person in a very, rigid environment, or the one who's very process-oriented in a very creative environment, you could still feel out of place.
Out of place. And people normally react to that kind of situation by treating you or differently or discriminating against you. Now, when you share your story and you inspire them to be equally as accepting, as loving as your parents, what could be more beautiful, di ba? When you share stories of love, that is how you overcome the hatred. When you share stories of authenticity and living your truth, that is how you overcome hypocrisy.
Wow. So the best way to overcome the insecurity that we flashed a while ago and the fear of the unfamiliar is to bridge communication with people,
Yes.
to tell them your story.
Yeah, being visible, which is the reason why, at first, tanungin mo lahat ng trans people, all they want is to blend into society, go undetected. When I first came back to the Philippines in 2012, I would go around and people did not know I was trans. That's the dream of every trans person. But when I won and everybody was focusing on that aspect of my being, my being a trans woman, it kind of felt uncomfortable. It felt awkward. I didn't like that kind of situation. Sabi ko, bakit ba kayo nagfo-focus sa pagiging trans ko? I'm much more than this.
Yes.
But I recognized that it was a platform.
Yes.
It was a way to be visible, not only for myself, but for the entire community. Para pakita sa buong Pilipinas na, okay, kahit na trans ako, minamaliit ako ng maraming tao, kaya ko naman mag-perform. Kaya ko naman maging mabuting mamamayan ng ating bansa or even public servant. But higit sa lahat, mabuting tao.
Napakaganda nun kasi higit sa lahat, you're not just your gender, right?
Yeah.
You are not just your policies. Para sa mga taong naka-experience ng pagiging iba, pagiging different, and siguro na-bully sila in their lives, ano ang masasuggest mong maging lifeline nila so that they can survive it as well?
To all those who might be experiencing bullying at this moment, especially mga teenager, I've been there. I know how it feels. Just hold on. Reach out to your parents, to your friends, and find support from them. Your teachers also. I-report po natin actually yung mga nagbubully sa atin. But most of all, I think, dapat yung maalala na mahalaga kayo, meron kayong worth, and it's not wrong to be different. Consider yourselves to be unique. And that's what makes you special. As long as you don't hurt other people, live out your truth. Be authentic. Nothing can be most pleasing and nothing can make you happier than living your authentic self. Can you imagine the rest of your life trying to fight who you are and what you are and, trying to fight your feelings when you love somebody? Basta, hindi ka na nanakit ng ibang tao, push mo lang yan.
Ang ganda. So, thank you so much. That was really beautiful. I'm sure a lot of people got inspired with that message. Now today, Kong Jerry taught us that being different isn't a weakness, it's actually a superpower. Whether it's standing up to bullies, embracing her identity, or finding love without apologies, her story proves that the thing that can make your life and meaningful and extraordinary is you. Geraldine Roman didn't just break barriers, she redefined them. From a child who was told she may be too much, to a woman who now gives others permission to be themselves. Her journey reminds us that freedom begins when you stop asking for acceptance and start owning your truth. To our viewers, may her story inspire you to stand tall, live boldly, and remember, the world needs exactly who you are. Thank you to the fearless Geraldine Roman for showing us that true power comes not from fitting in, but from standing out, for proving that love doesn't ask you to shrink and that the future belongs to those who are brave enough to live as they are. To everyone watching who has ever felt too much or maybe not enough, maybe her story reminded you that the world needs your voice, your truth, your light. To our viewers, we'll see you next time. I'm Carelle Herrera, and this is Lifeline.